Okay, well, welcome everyone to the third annual meeting of the Creepy Christmas Clones. Let's get some paperwork out of the way. We've got the attendance. Let's get that on the record. Harble Nargle, that is me. Obviously, I am here, so check that off. Flarb Norp.
Christmas!
Okay. Clebe Neeb.
Christmas!
And Bob. Where is Bob?
Christmas!
He's still out in the hallway, whatever. Yeah, that's pretty much everybody, I guess. So, anyway, how's it been going? It's been a good few years of doing this. We've had some good camera tricks, some editing shenanigans, and plot lines that are confusing and don't go anywhere. So that's good work. I don't even know what else we're talking about. We're clones. Right, so with that out of the way, does anybody have any input on where we go from here?
Christmas!
That's about what I figured. Well, it's time for Christmas lazy game reviews. Lemmings! I honestly don't know how many of these games I've covered on LGR over the years, with at least 4 of them being holiday variants. But who cares? Here's one more. Namely 3D Lemmings Winterland, a special seasonal demo for 1995's 3D Lemmings, distributed through magazine cover discs. There was also a limited retail edition sold in stores in the same box as the full game, just with an appropriately wintry sleeve, signifying that it came with 6 new levels of wintry wonder. As for 3D Lemmings itself, also called Lemmings 3D depending on the box art, it was published by Psygnosis in 1995 for DOS PCs and later the Sega Saturn and Sony PlayStation. And it's the first Lemmings developed not by DMA Design, but by Clockwork Games. Prior to this, they went by Lunatic Software and were primarily known for creating 2D shooters for the Commodore Amiga like Necronom and Cytron. And they ended up being contracted to bring classic 2D Lemmings into the exciting world of 3D, a bandwagon just about everyone was beginning to jump on in the mid-90s. That meant open-ended 3D environments, a freely movable camera, and levels that snake around in all directions. And in terms of gameplay, it more or less ignores the detours taken by Lemmings 2 and Lemmings Chronicles. There are no more tribes with unique costumes, flying or musical skills, collecting abilities, or the option to give Lemmings multiple tasks. Instead, it goes back to the basic Lemmings 1 skill set, with predetermined allotments of skills available to complete each level. Turner Lemmings are the main addition here, which act like classic blocker Lemmings, except they force followers to turn left or right in order to navigate corners. Otherwise, the biggest addition is the 3D camera, and you've still got the typical on-screen controls for fast forward, pausing, flow speed, and skills. There is a notable learning curve with the 3D stuff, but it's designed in such a way that it eases the player in level by level. And if that's still too overwhelming, 3D Lemmings also offers a
practice mode
with an assortment of maps dedicated to teaching each individual skill and 3D block type one by one. And with that, let's move on to 3D Lemmings Winterland, which kicks off with a 3D wintry Lemmings animation, and the same basic menu screens as the full version of 3D Lemmings. As is tradition, there's only 1 starting level available, with the rest unlocking as you play, for a total of 6 by the end. Though the practice mode is now gone, meaning there are now no tutorials at all. So much for easing you into the game. Instead, Winterland drops you straight into the action, with Lemmings flowing out of the entrance, with nothing on their agenda but a swift, painful death. Until you do something about it at least. The Lemmings may still be 2D sprites, but they die no less gruesomely without your involvement, and this time around, you've got to navigate a 3D world to keep them alive. Each level takes place on an unseen grid of square blocks stacked on top of one another, with individual square blocks hinted at by certain textures. Some blocks are flat, some are slanted, some have water textures, some are made of soil or rock, and many are covered in ice or snow, which cause Lemmings to slip and slide until they come into contact with a walkable surface again. So your task is to provide each lemming with the appropriate skill at the exact right time so they're able to guide their siblings safely to the exit. With the skills in this demo being Blocker, Turner, Bomber, Builder, Basher, Miner, Digger, and Climber. Most levels only require a few skills at once, and your task is to make the best use of them to navigate the map from entrance to exit without killing too many critters. Block them from walking off ledges, build bridges over hazards, dig tunnels under walls, and remove obstacles by strategically detonating them, as required. In prior 2D Lemmings titles, what you had to do and where you needed to go was pretty apparent from the start, with an obvious exit door and quickly discernible terrain and hazards. But with Lemmings 3D, it's wise to pause and take extra time before each level to float across the map, rotate around corners, and see what's what. You also have 3D previews before a level loads, but I mean, it's not exactly the most useful thing to look at since it's all zoomed out and spinning so fast at such a low resolution. It does at least show the number of lemmings you're dealing with and the difficulty rating, but that's about it. So yeah, it's worth taking time to wander the map, see which blocks are in the way, and what skills to prioritize before you even let a single lemming begin walking through the puzzle. And even before that, you'll have to solve what is perhaps 3D Lemmings' toughest puzzle of all, the early 3D camera. Yeah. Early 3D cameras were like the improvised dive bar comedy sketches of mid-90s gaming. You never really know what you'd get, you felt a bit drunk, and it often wasn't amusing. Each early 3D camera played by slightly different rules, finding unique ways of obstructing the player's view while also never quite showing enough of a view at any given moment. And Lemmings 3D Winterland 3D Lemmings 3D lives up to that reputation by having its own camera that can be an absolute chore to deal with. Each map has 4 preset cameras to cycle through, which are often helpful in pointing out areas of interest, but you're still going to need to take it off the virtual tripod and float around freely, controlled using either the keyboard, the mouse, or some hybrid of the two depending on your preferences. There was also support for the Logitech Cyberman 3D game controller, which, that's a device we'll have to revisit sometime in the future if I think about it, but regardless of your chosen input method, fighting with the camera is a skill as important as any other in 3D Lemmings 3D Winterland. Not only due to the iffy controls, but because the camera is treated as a physical in-game item, slamming up against walls, floors, ceilings, and objects. So whenever you're moving back, forward, left, right, up, down, or rotating, you'll also have to worry about parts of the level getting in the way, preventing you from doing any of that. And for this reason, it's important to make use of the new Virtual Lemming, or VL mode, activated by clicking the face in the bottom left. Looking around in first person is more than a gimmick here. It's a necessity in some levels, since the camera can't physically reach inside certain areas that you need to see in order to apply skills. An alternative is making use of the arrow tool, which lets you select a lemming before applying a skill. And this way you can tell them what to do even if you can't see them or you can't get a bead on the exact one you want in a large crowd. Chances are you'll still get the timing wrong pretty often, especially if you haven't yet nailed down exactly how the unseen grid of blocks works. So thankfully, replay mode makes a return from Lemmings Chronicles, which lets you watch an instant replay of the actions you just performed and failed at, with the ability to let you take over at any time and continue from the point right before you failed. And if it's still too frustrating, you can always take a break and pop right back to where you left off with the right password. Alphabetic level selection is back in the main menu, and it might just be the best iteration of this in the series, visually speaking. Heck, it's one of the most excellent text entry screens I've seen in any game at all. I love watching all the old 2D lemming sprites form whatever 8-character word or phrase you type in. I don't know, it's oddly addictive, and I spent far longer messing around with this silliness than I'd care to admit. Less enjoyable is the nuke option, which in 3D Lemmings isn't nearly as fun to watch due to the explosion animation used. Compared to the rapid sequence of exploding rodent fireworks you got in the 2D games, there's no comparison. At least the music is pretty good stuff. with Winterland here using several of the same bouncy FM synth songs from 3D Lemmings, at least when that one was played without CD audio. Unfortunately, there's no seasonal holiday-themed music going on, which is quite the missed opportunity. Even worse, though, is the fact that, just look at those lemmings. Look at them. They're wearing blue. Sure, it's their classic outfit, but come on, it's Christmas. Or at least Christmas-adjacent holiday fun times, so not putting them in red Santa suits is just unfortunate. Every other holiday Lemmings game had them in cute little Santa get-ups with little bouncing hats, and it was perfect. So the fact that these tiny sprites from 1991 have 1,000 times more personality than these comparatively high-res sprites from 1995 is downright sad. And for that matter, I find the entire presentation to be significantly less appealing in Lemmings 3D than I do any of the Lemmings 2D games, wintry or otherwise. It's really not too bad for 1995, but it's simply not ideal for a puzzle game that relies on meticulous time-based puzzle solving. It'd help if there was an option for higher resolutions, but nope. There's no way I'm aware of to adjust the resolution, only the texture mapping. Oh, and the window size, which makes things even smaller, so you'd get better performance on lower-end PCs. A fascinating exercise in dealing with old-school technical limitations and early 3D game design, but that's about it. Well, it's not like it outstays its welcome. Those 6 demo levels pass by in half an hour, if you know what you're doing. And when you do complete it, you're given a text-filled teaser, which comes across more like a threat than a tempting proposition. 100 more levels? Oh no! No. I can only take so much of that camera. And by extension, I can only take so much of Lemmings 3D Winterland 3D. Like, for an early 3-dimensional translation of a 2D classic, it's honestly not that bad. And I appreciate that Clockwork went back to the basics in terms of lemming abilities and gameplay structure. But the comfy winter theme, catchy ad-lib music, and adorable rodent deaths only help so much when you're running up against a clunky 3D camera and low-res maps that make it harder than it should be to see what you're doing. And if you enjoyed this holiday retrospective on LGR, then check out all the ones I've done in years past, or stick around for more videos on more things. I've always got stuff in the works. And as always, thank you for watching.